Welcome to Off the Roster, brought to you by our founding partner, Proline. Must be 18 plus to bet in store, 19 plus online, and for Ontario residents only. Thank you for joining us wherever it may be in the world and however you may be joining us, whether it be on Instagram, Twitter, on YouTube, underneath the Nation Network, or hey, maybe you're listening to us later on Spotify, or however you listen to podcasts. Thanks for joining us. I'm Lindsay, alongside Dan and Cabbie. And Cabbie, I'll start with you. How are you feeling after eating sardines for the first time in your life?
I'm still living with the shame. That's all I'm saying. I think the taste is finally out of my mouth, but I need to equalize this loss to Dan at some point in the future. So I'm looking forward to cooking up the next bet where I can get a W and Dan can eat said pork brains, which were on the line.
I am very excited for this moment for Dan in his future, but we will be talking about the Leafs Raptors big game tonight in Toronto against the Knicks. We have a Knicks beat writer with us. We're going to be talking about what's happening in the NFL and also what's happening in the music world across Canada. But to distract us from what happened in that Leafs game just for a little moment, if you've been listening to the show or watching, you would know that Dan yesterday went to the game with the Green Man, and you were on TV. You were a celebrity, as you already are. What was the experience like?
It was the most interesting seats in the house. You know, they lived up to its name, and man, being like going around like with the Green Man was an experience in and of itself. Yeah, we were hanging out with Mike Johnson there, just behind the color analysis studio between the benches. And yeah, there was people taking selfies with the Green Man. Everybody was kind of looking and snickering at said Green Man, and it lived up to the hype. The most interesting seats in the house. You're right in the action. Like, okay, maybe it's not the best vantage point for viewing the game at all times, because once it goes into either end of the rink, it's hard to see over the benches. But look at how close we were for the Darryl Sittler celebration. Matthew Nyes is right next to me, and then out comes Sittler for the 10-point celebration. Pretty incredible there. And you had all those Leafs legends, Ian Turnbull and all those guys out there as well. Lanny McDonald's, got the former Canucks hanging out with me there, Troy Stetcher and Oliver Ekman-Larsson as well. So Troy from Richmond didn't have the best night on defense, as Craigie B pointed out, but in the overall, I mean, these seats, it's a different vantage point, but it is super cool. You are right in the thick of it. And I thought actually the coolest part of it, aside from being next to the Green Man, like everybody on the Sabres bench was just like, damn it, what is this guy doing here? It was so funny. And then, but like being next to the Leafs bench and the equipment manager, he's just like there the whole time. He's like, you never realize how many skates he's changing actually during the game. It's like wild. It feels like every few minutes somebody's getting a skate blade change. And then during the play, I don't know if anybody's realized this, but he is like constantly hand on the stick of any Leaf player that has the puck in case the stick blows up and breaks, and he's just like ready to pounce on it and make sure that he can get that stick to the player on the ice. But the memorization of that just like was freaking me out. But yes, most interesting seats in the house lived up to its name last night, and made even more interesting being next to the Green Man.
I love that for you. You mentioned, like the equipment manager. I've asked to interview him so many times because I'm fascinated also by like, you're looking at whose eyes holding on, who's going to need this. I could not do that at all. And I'm so excited for you, and that I was really happy to see you on TV and that you had a great time. But when we talk about that Darryl Sittler moment, because February 7th is the official 50th anniversary of him scoring, that crazy 10 points or having 10 points in a game, which is just still mind blowing.
Yeah,
being there for that moment must have been so cool. There's a moment that happened before the game where you're either going to cringe at this or you're going to love it, because Sittler brought his grandchildren into the Leafs locker room and had them read the starting lineup. Just look at the Leafs involvement.
This is an awesome honor for us. You all know how important family is. I got my two grandsons here. Freddie, who plays hockey, grandson Sawyer, who's a goalie, and they're going to spell it out for you guys. Go get him, Freddie.
All right, boys, let's go. Give me a beat. Number 74, Bobby McLean!
Hey!
He is fired up.
Austin Matthews!
Oh!
Number 11,
Like, and that pretty much you get the
So
gist of it. And I love it. Like,
How are they not fired up after that? How did this, like,
Seriously,
where did
man.
this game go
Well,
wrong?
that's them showing emotions there. Like, they went on, they gave him a beat, but can you imagine, not only is your grandpa Darryl Sittler, if they understand the magnitude of who that man is, but having to walk in, they know who the Leafs are, they know who Austin Matthews is, and having to read, like, I wanted to pass out for them. What if, like, can you imagine being like those kids at what, I don't know how old they are. They're either 8 or 27 in that. I know nothing about children's ages.
Yeah. Children,
understood the
they don't know
assignment, but
other
they-
thing
they-
but
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Dad.
they know nothing other than 125%. That's children, right? That's
Those
that's
kids
the way it goes.
specifically, yeah, it could go one way where they're completely terrified, and or the other way where they're like very expressive and outgoing. And the Darryl brought the right kids, I'm sure there are more than just 2 grandkids in his lineage. He brought the right 2, and unfortunately, the Leafs didn't match their energy for a consistent 60-minute game.
No.
Unfortunately.
No. And again, thank you for joining us in the chat. We'll get to your comments as well. If you're joining us on Instagram, I saw one of the comments asking if, hey, are we on YouTube? We are. You have to look up the Nation Network. We're streaming live there right now, and you can also join the conversation. But we tried to, like, distract everyone right now from what actually happened in the Leafs game. They lost 7-4. We know they're in a bit of a tough situation right now. And what a homestand it was. Out of a possible 10 points, how many did they get? Uno. One. Whatever other language you can say one in. So here's what Craigie B had to say after the game. And I'll let you know the answer was a lot longer than what we're going to show you because it was fiery.
What did you learn about your team on this homestand?
What did I learn about them?
Yeah.
Well, that we gotta keep the puck out of our net is what I learned, and we didn't do that here at home, other than the Detroit game. It's the only game we did. But until we decide to do things right and keep the puck out of our net, and that's the goalies included, this is what you're going to get. Defend harder than we are, more desperation in defending, and goalies stop the puck. That's it. Well, we could score goals. We score goals, but until we want to keep the puck out of our net, this is what we're going to get. There's no more than that. I don't want to talk about it anymore. That's all it is.
It's accurate, I mean, it just comes down to the simple mathematics of the game. More pucks in their net than our net. That's how it goes.
Multiple things can be true here at the same time. The Leafs didn't generate enough offensively. I know they ended up with 4 goals at the end of it, but it kind of became pond hockey there at the end of the third period. They had 13 shots on net after 2 periods. Like that's not enough. One of the reasons you're having so much trouble defending is because you're defending all the time. You're always in your own end. That second period, it was all Buffalo in Toronto's end. And this has been part of the issue with this group this year and in general with Craig Berube, even though, they had the goaltending last year and they were able to still have a lot of really good moments. They defend too much. They don't get enough shots on net. And that's been a big problem for this team all season long.
It was 16-7 to your point in that second period, the shot differential where Buffalo did most of its damage, and they have improved to 23-1 leading after 2 periods. So that's just like remarkable. And also like you're facing like 3 of the hottest goaltenders in the NHL right now. It was just Atlantic Division's a gauntlet, and everybody knows that who watches this team, and this homestand proved how difficult it is to advance in the standings in this specific division in the NHL this season.
I was excited for a moment. Like the emotions were there. You have the Darryl Sittler moment where you're seeing Lanny McDonald and everyone else. We're seeing Dan on TV with the green man. I'm like, this is going to be a great game. And then Buffalo scored. I'm like, oh no, we've seen this time and time again. But then when that goal got called back and then the Leafs scored, I was so optimistic and excited. It's like the Buds are going to do it. And then 7-4 loss. And you look at the numbers against them. They're 8 points out of a playoff spot right now. And Matthew Nyes was asked post-game if he is looking at the standings at all. And I'm just curious, when you guys listen to this clip, do you think he is full of it?
Yeah, I think that there's still a lot of hockey left, and I think the standings are really close. I haven't really looked at it much, to be honest with you. That's how confident I am that we're going to get there. We just got to focus on each game, and ahead of us is four big games on the road. So that's the main focus. I think I'm not going to really look at the standings or the point totals at all. I think we're just going to try to focus on playing to our identity, playing our hockey.
He looked at the standings, guys. They know where they are. I'm calling BS. I like nice, but BS meter is pretty high right there.
Full of it might be a good way of putting it. It's, if you're an athlete, you probably don't want to be looking at the standings and seeing that things got out of hand quickly because of this, 5-game winless streak on the homestand. But yeah, I think those guys know where they sit in the standings. I would hope that they aren't playing like they know it, but they need to know where they're sitting in the standings. It should be on the whiteboard, on the plane out west for this trip, because the urgency level definitely needs to tick up.
I will let you know, at one point when we were filming earlier this year, I think, or earlier in our show, which I think December is when we launched, I was going to say, if they don't make the playoffs, I'm going to shave my head, but I never said it. And I'm glad I didn't, because it is a real uphill moment to get there. So I'm just curious, before the Olympic break, yes, they're going on the road. They are not a great road team. They're taking on Seattle tomorrow night. At what point do you think the Leafs need to change course, or is that time now, Dan?
It's now. I mean, I hate being that guy with 29 games remaining, but it's over. The only thing that there's left to play for this team is getting more assets for the future and giving yourself a chance to recalibrate beyond this season. Okay. You can be excused for putting all your chips in last year and really going for it. You were top in the Atlantic Division. Things looked like they were heading in a direction that this could finally be your year. And all these years that you've been spending first round draft choices to try and get this team over the top, it made sense. This year, it makes sense to be sellers. You're 8 points out. The Bruins and the Habs both won last night. The Atlantic Division, 5 of the best 9 teams in the NHL are residing in the Atlantic Division and ahead of the Maple Leafs. That makes their trek back to a postseason spot that much more difficult. So when you sit here today as a team that is 8 points out, you just can't realistically. Of course, Craig Berube and the players have a different task at hand, but Brad Treliving has to look at this with a reasonable eye and say, this just ain't our year. If I'm going to get us in a better position to be better than we are next season, I've got to collect some assets for the future, maybe trade off some of these unrestricted free agents. Scott Lawton, we love you, but maybe we'll bring you back in the summer if you hit free agency. Right now, we need to get some assets. You're our best rental free agent. We've got to move on. That's the situation that the Leafs have created for themselves after this 5-game homestand. You had this 5-game homestand against 5 really good teams, and you showed you were not good enough to beat any of them. And that should frame the way you think about approaching the trade deadline this year for the Maple Leafs. I don't see a reason for them to think any other way after what we've just seen.
Dan, your thoughts and your commentary are reasonable. And this morning, as I was thinking about it on the way to the studio, I put together a few unpopular thoughts about how the Toronto Maple Leafs can actually make the playoffs. So this is another edition of Cabbie Reads from his notes. The Atlantic Division, as we know, is a gauntlet, and Detroit and Tampa will be the top seeds. The Toronto Maple Leafs have been playing Game 7-like hockey, which started on January 1st. That awesome comeback against the Winnipeg Jets. They're down 4-1. They ended up winning 6-5. Jeff Merrick said it on our show yesterday that Toronto plays 82 one-game seasons. Now, by the time the playoffs begin, I was going to say a note about the past 5 games, and they would be out of a 7-game series because they're winless in 5. But by the time the playoffs begin, the Leafs will have spent 3 months in high-pressure survival mode. And this will prevent the late season complacency that has plagued the Maple Leafs in previous seasons in 22, 23, and 25 when they had their spot locked up by February. Dan, you mentioned earlier this week, and you just mentioned that Toronto's front office shouldn't spend any more on this roster. But Toronto currently has a problem that other teams envy, which is 3 solid goaltenders. Joseph Woll, Dennis Hildeby, and Anthony Stolarz, who is better than his most recent performance. Buffalo's in a similar situation. However, the caliber of their 3 goaltenders right now is elite, but similar situation in that they have very strong goaltending, which we saw last night. So instead of keeping depth for safety, trading one of the goaltenders now is the best path. So even though goaltending is the most volatile position, moving Anthony Stolarz or even the Hildebys, who we've come to love, could finally land a top 4 defenseman, which the team really needs. Finally, next week begins a 3-week Olympic reset, and most of the elite talent in the league will be playing high-intensity minutes in Milano, including Dylan Larkin, Tage Thompson, David Pastrnak, all in the Atlantic Division, and the Florida Panthers are sending 9 dudes. A significant portion of the Leafs' depth players like Bobby McMahon, Jake McCabe, Troy from Richmond, Morgan Riley will stay behind. And this provides a rare mid-season mini training camp time for Craig Berube to refine his defensive systems and his structure with this veteran group, while the rest of the league's superstars are wearing themselves out at the Winter Olympics and eating presumably incredible handmade pasta. But those are my unpopular, perhaps thin reasons why the Maple Leafs can still make a run at advancing to the postseason. Gord Miller said it on the broadcast last night. They need to win 20 of their last 30 games, or 29 games. It's not impossible. It's unlikely, but there's a path. Thank you very much for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah. Both of you, TED Talk. Kevin reads off of his notes. Dan tries to give us a reality check, and I'm always in La La Land. But I think I'm usually so optimistic every time. Like, okay, let's start the parade. Like a couple of weeks ago, they were in a playoff spot. Now they're 8 points down. I look at this, and for me, my belief-o-meter will be at a 0 if by the time they go to the Olympic break, they do not win these road games. We know they're not a great road team right now, but I still have some belief. I did just read Chris Johnson's tweet, which said the Leafs would have to finish 29-0-0 to get to 115 points. That's the total they had in the 2021-2022 season in its entirety. It illustrates how far they slipped from previous heights and how many opponents have caught up to them. So I'm trying to be realistic about this, but I do still have a little bit of hope. It could be one of the greatest comebacks we've seen in Leafs history. So I'm going to believe for 2 more games. And then I think I may have to come back to reality, Dan.
Well, listen,
I will
Lindsay,
say that
those 2 games are Seattle and at Vancouver. So those could be 2 dubs, and then they go at Calgary, which will be tough. And then they finish at Edmonton. I mean, it's possible to get 6 of 8 points here. It's possible. Five of 8.
It is possible. I mean, Vancouver is pretty much guaranteed win night when teams are going into Vancouver right now. But sorry for the Canucks fans that may be watching. The Green Man is even trading in the Canucks for Maple Leafs right now, which is maybe not a good sign for Vancouver. Okay, there's 2 other points to this that I think are very important. Like, the Leafs do not own their first round draft choice for this upcoming year. So tanking right now makes it uncomfortable because it's like you're just giving the Bruins a better pick if you choose to tank right now. Okay, it's top 5 protected, but the likelihood of the Leafs getting into the bottom 5 of the standings is pretty much the same likelihood that they would get to a playoff spot at this point. I think they're 7 points up on the bottom 5 of the league. They're 8 points out of the top playoff spots, or one of the playoff spots that they're trying to catch in the Atlantic Division. So that makes this very difficult. But at the same time, I look at the Bruins from last year, and what did they do? At the deadline, they were 8 points above the top 5. They finished with 12 points in their final 19 games. They put everybody they could on injured reserve. They traded anybody that they could, Brandon Carlo and whomever. That was the home run deal that they made with, unfortunately, the Maple Leafs. Kind of feels like the Phil Kessel trade again all over all these years later, which really hurts. But they were able to get into a bottom 5 spot. They end up with the 7th overall pick, I think it was. They drafted James Higgins. Now they're back into that's the reset that this team needs. You still got an elite core around Austin Matthews and William. The 2024 Blue Jays is another example, right? Like Vladdy and Bo were still around. They had a ton of expectations for that season. They did not live up to them. At the deadline, they traded a bunch of guys, got in, Jonathan Clase. They got Joey Loperfido, some other, pieces for the farm to end up, restocking and being able to use some of those pieces for future trade. Clase and Loperfido played small bit parts for the Blue Jays during this year when they went to the World Series. So there is examples of a 1-year reset allowing you to get back to where you feel you should be. You just have to be very clear in that mindset that this is right now that moment that you decide to recalibrate to give yourself a better chance for the future.
Oh, man, we were on a high for a bit surrounding this team, and now it's just there's uncertainty, and the chat right now is going off about the Toronto Maple Leafs right now. I do understand the passion and the frustration if you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, but something I do not understand, which I'm curious if you guys may understand this, something that happened involving a former Toronto Maple Leaf and another rink. The Vegas Golden Knights taking on Montreal, where Mitch Marner... Take a listen if you haven't seen this or watched this, whatever. I was surprised by this moment that happened in the game. Well, you know what? I'll just retell it for you. It was this. Boo. Boo. Yeah, what happened was he was booed in the Bell Center, which it's not because I'm a Mitch stan or whatever. It's just he doesn't play for the Leafs anymore. He's left the organization that right now it looks like it's in a complete tailspin. And
Habs fans have no reason to boo Mitch Marner. It just doesn't make any sense.
Thank you. I've been so confused.
Just like residual leftover hate from previous years. Yeah. And I guess Mitchie's getting it. They should be booing Pavel Dorofeev, who I think had 2 goals last night, and then cheering their guy, Gold Caufield. They should boo Bill Guerin because Gold Caufield's not representing the United States in the Winter Olympics this season. Or this year.
That's probably... You know what? For Habs fans, be happy that Cole Caufield and Lane Hutson aren't going to the Olympics. They get 2.5, 3 weeks to just kind of cool their jets, put the whiteboard material up. Oh, you don't think I was good enough to play for Team America? Oh yeah.
Yes.
Cole Caufield already on 30 goals for the year. Lane Hutson is, one of the better point producing defensemen in the NHL. You don't think I'm good enough? You don't think I should have been the replacement for Seth Jones? Okay, we'll see about that. So these guys are just going to be massive chips on their shoulders going into the final third of the season and into the postseason if you're the Habs. And I mean, both Cole Caufield and Jason Robertson, they've just been on another level since getting snubbed by Bill Guerin. Yeah.
Big time, bro. That's a huge slight. And now that chip on the shoulder is going to be even bigger. They're playing in FU mode right now, and I love to see it. Love it.
FU mode is a mode that I hope the Toronto Raptors stay in. I don't know if they're in an FU mode. They're just playing great right now. They're having great defensive moments tonight. They are taking on the New York Knicks here in Toronto. The Knicks coming off of a win against the Kings, so they're on a back-to-back. We will have Kristian Winfield from the New York Daily News, who's a beat writer for the Knicks, in a couple of minutes, but I just want to talk about tonight's game. So you have CMB questionable with left thumb contusion. He's got a bruised left thumb. We all know what's kind of surrounding him, but Darko Rakovic was asked yesterday, because we're just over a week away from the trade deadline. He was asked by Josh Lundberg of TSN about the team's small ball success, if it's sustainable, or if he'd like to see them add size at the deadline. Here is what he had to say. It's a front office decision. There's one guy that I really like, and I want him to join the team. His name is Jakob Poeltl. That guy can definitely help us. That is the most perfect answer I think a coach has given about trade deadline in the history of the NBA. I'm overhyping it, but when I read that, I was like, that is such a great quote, because he will help this team when we look at how they're performing. they've been so good. And they had a nice practice yesterday, something they haven't had in a long time, which Immanuel Quickley said that he was really surprised that Jamal Shed was not on the Rising Stars roster. And then you have Jamal Shed, just a true vet and just so nice in how he speaks about everything in the NBA and surrounding his life. And when it came to college ball, he says basically it is what it is. He's really happy to see that they had 2 Raptors brought into the Rising Stars Challenge. They deserve it. So he's been really mature about it. But what had you guys excited about tonight's game? Because there's a lot of different storylines. Like now the Knicks are just ahead of the Raptors in the standings.
Yeah. It's a huge game, right? I do want to pull on that thread there for a second of the trade deadline. And I'm really in agreement here with Darko, with what we just saw over the road trip for the Raptors and the way they came together, even through all these injuries, and have still found a way to have success, beating the Warriors, beating OKC. It's a team that is playing like a team. And for as much as, I don't think they are the favorite in the Eastern Conference by any stretch of the imagination, it's not a team that I'm ready to blow up. Like I kind of and try to, really change and bring in another piece to maybe mess with the chemistry, because so much is going well for this group right now. They're in their first year out of the rebuild. Let's see where this goes. Like RJ Barrett, comes back in, continues to have a ton of success, and the Raptors are better for it. You've had Scotty Barnes, Mamu, and even CMB playing this like small ball type game that has really caused other team fits. And when the Raptors turn up the defense, it's very hard to beat them because they've got guys that can switch all over the court and defend anybody, which makes the Raptors sort of unique in that way. So this is something that I want to see a bigger sample size, especially if they're able to get somewhat healthier here through the final stretch of the season, and just see where it goes before deciding that they need to make a big addition somewhere.
Listen, as Toronto's won 4 in a row, against the Warriors, Blazers, Kings, and OKC, they showed in their most recent 103-101 defeat in OKC that the defense is playing at an elite level. Anytime you're able to hold Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the reigning MVP, the reigning scoring champion, the reigning finals MVP, to 24 points, that's just an incredible team effort, because it's not one guy cannot slow SGA down or neutralize him. It's just not possible. So the Raptors, they're rested. The Knicks, as Lindsay mentioned, they played Sacramento last night. They beat them 103-87. But the Raptors had a couple of days off. Scotty Barnes was enjoying Monday Night Raw with that really dope Raptors belt. Just had some time to relax, and they're playing with a lot of confidence, which is key to any team's success. And they have yet to beat the Knicks this season. They're 0-2 against New York. So I don't know if it's a revenge factor will play. Will be a huge storyline, but I'm sure it'll be on their minds to beat one of their division rivals and certainly get a W against the Knicks, who will be a little bit more tired than Toronto tonight at Scotiabank Arena.
Well, who knows all about the Knicks? It's none other than Kristian Winfield, who is a Knicks beat writer with New York Daily News. We appreciate you joining us this morning, buddy. Good morning,
Good morning.
Neil.
Good morning.
Morning. How you guys doing?
We're wonderful.
We're doing fantastic.
We are
I'm
great.
assuming you guys have a pretty cold a cold streak going on up there as well. We got a big snow rush over here. It's freezing outside. I think we got single digits today outside today, which is ridiculous. How's it going over there with you guys?
Hell has frozen over, my friend. It is freezing here and a lot of snow. But I am so fascinated to talk to you about the Knicks, but also a little bit about the Raptors, because when it comes to the next season, like, hey, NBA Cup, let's go. And then there was the streak. Then there was the losing streak. There was the home crowd booing them. And then a players meeting that did or did not happen. And then they're kind of coming back on track. What is the vibe like right now around the Knicks as they come into Toronto?
You mentioned all those things. It kind of feels like there's been 3 or 4 seasons within one season for this Knicks team ever since Mike Brown took over. The vibe right now in the Knicks locker room, if you asked me this, a week and a half ago, I'd have told you the vibes were in the gutter. They were terrible. But it's funny what a win over the Brooklyn Nets can do for a team's psyche and just for their mental right now. I think the team is starting to realize who they are, where they came from. You know, you mentioned a team that went to the NBA Cup, that won the NBA Cup. They deviated completely from that style of play. You know, this was a team that was moving the ball, playing with pace, finding some sort of, you know, they were finding a groove on the defensive end. And then you fast forward a couple of weeks and, you know, this team that just stopped caring about the little hustle plays, the effort plays. They stopped caring about moving the ball, about touching the paint and spraying out to the three-point line. It was a team that lost itself. So right now, the vibe, I would say, is a team that's starting to find its groove again. But, I mean, if you ask anybody, a win over the Brooklyn Nets. And then, I mean, the Sixers a little bit more of a convincing win. And then yesterday you come out here and you get a win over a Kings team that kind of beat you pretty good when you were in Sacramento. But no one's really looking at a win over the Sacramento Kings as to say, hey, you're back on track. No one's looking at a win over the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, the Sixers even have their issues. Hell, you look at the Raptors when you beat them in the NBA Cup, you guys were hurt, right? I'm pretty sure Quick was out. I think you guys had another people out. So, you know, this team still has to prove it to itself that it can beat, you know, competition that's on its level. And that's kind of one of the reasons why you look at this streak from the Knicks, and they lost very winnable games that they needed to win, because coming up on this stretch, including the Raptors, of these teams that you have coming up, this is a tough stretch for the Knicks that they have to prove to themselves that they belong. And, you know, this Knicks team, they even said, you know, going to the NBA Cup, you know, you start to feel like you won something, you did something. You see it with the Lakers and the Bucks the last couple of years. They got to the NBA Cup, won it all, and they go on these ridiculous losing streaks. Same things happens to the Knicks. So they're trying to pick up kind of where they were before. And, you know, it's kind of like a new season in a way, because, and then on top of that, you got the trade deadline coming. I'm sure we're getting into that. There's a lot of moving parts with this Knicks team right now, because it's at a spot right now where you've got guys that are outside the rotation. You got guys that aren't playing very well. So we'll see what happens in the next week or so. But, you know, the vibes on one end are good because you get out of the stretch where you lose 9 out of 11, but the vibes on the other end are you don't know who's going to be here in a week, right? So we'll see what happens.
The joy of the NBA trade deadline. I know Raptors Nation feeling the same, wondering who is going to be with the team in about a week, just over a week, and who won't be. So you mentioned the Raptors a couple times. I'm just curious from like an outsider perspective, as in somebody who's not in Toronto, how do you guys view, like as other writers or even the team, view the Raptors? Is this somebody that, you know, could be a great competitor against them, that you mentioned it would be a tough game? How are Knicks fans and writers looking at this game against the Toronto Raptors?
Well, you know, for a while, I wondered how many different variations of Scotty Barnes the Raptors were going to try to draft and create a team around. Turns out it's not really the worst idea to have 5 or 4 versatile defenders that can all kind of do similar things. But it's good to see them go get a guy like Brandon Ingram, right? A guy that you can go rely on to get a bucket down the stretch. It's good to see you go get a guy like Quickley, a guy like RJ, guys that could actually go out there and score. But, you know, I think really from the outside looking in, it was really confusion as to what type of team the Raptors were trying to build. And, you know, I quite frankly was a little surprised by the start. I knew Brandon Ingram was going to come in and help. I knew, you know, just, you know, when you have the same core year after year, eventually things are going to click. I was wondering when that was going to happen. This year, I think that the start to the season was a little faster than anybody really, at least I saw coming. But Toronto, you know, you're going to get a team that's going to go out there and be tough to score on. You know, you're going to get a team that's out there. Now they have a scoring punch. It's just a matter of time when the thing's going to start clicking. I don't think anyone knew whether Darko was or was not the right coach. I think now you're seeing that maybe he is. And we'll see what happens. You know, it's a fun team. It's a tough place to play. Always has been a tough team to kind of like score on because of the way that they're constructed. I was just always concerned as to why they kept drafting the same type of player year over year, right? So I guess now we're starting to figure it out.
now it's starting to come together. And you know, RJ Barrett, you know, you mentioned him. He was one of those guys that missed the last game against the Knicks, and he's kind of had an evolution here in Toronto. I know with New York, you know, he was kind of a ball stopper. Maybe he could score the basketball, but kind of empty stat lines on a lot of nights. And you know, we've seen the Raptors 18-7 with RJ in the lineup this year. He's just become a much more efficient player, and he helps the offense hum a lot better when he's on the court. How have you seen his evolution? And I guess just in general, like sometimes it takes guys a little bit longer to find their true selves or the best version of themselves in the NBA.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is opportunity, right? I mean, if they put you and me on the floor with Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, how many touches do you think we get? Probably not a lot. Right? It's RJ Barrett, right? RJ Barrett needs the ball in his hands to be effective. That's why, and that everybody will tell you that's why it didn't work, right? This is a guy who needs the ball, and when you have Jalen and Julius on the floor, RJ was on the floor a lot of the time, captain in the second unit. Why? Because there's more opportunities to get the ball and do what he does, and that's why we knew going to Toronto in front of his home crowd, having more of a chance to be the number one guy. That was a good fit for him. Same for Quickley, right? Quickley is a guy who, the part of the reason why the Knicks didn't want to pay him, yes, he's talented, but you've got Jalen Brunson who's playing a lot of these minutes, and you can't really play them together. So, of course, you're not going to give Quick 5 years, 125. And now you go, I don't know what that contract looks like for you guys right now, if you guys are liking or not liking the value of that deal. But there's a guy who could now go produce because of the spot he's been put in. Those opportunities aren't available in New York. You've got Jalen on one end. Now you've got Karl Anthony Towns. You could make an argument that this team now needs a guy like Immanuel Quickley off the bench when you consider the depth. But, I'm of the belief that, and all these guys will tell you, everybody in the NBA is talented. It's really just about the right opportunity. I think that's why I was big for the Knicks to trade RJ and Quickley to Toronto because, not only was there a hometown aspect for RJ, but for both of those guys, the opportunity was there in Toronto to have an increased role on offense. And we're seeing what it does for the team right now.
Yeah, and Quickley's really found himself these last couple of weeks as well. So, good things for those guys. But the Eastern Conference in general, Kristian, obviously Detroit is kind of running away with it right now with the top seed. But it does kind of feel like it's a bit of an open board here as you approach the playoffs. Like, is there a true favorite? Is it Detroit, or is that still developing in the Eastern Conference?
It has to be Detroit, and it should have been the Knicks, and that's a problem right now when you consider everything they've done to put this team together. You fire Tom Thibodeau, you bring in Mike Brown, you trade 5 draft picks for Mikal Bridges, you trade Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo for Karl Anthony Towns, and you go to the Eastern Conference Finals, get to the NBA Cup, and then you fall off a cliff. What happened, right? You're expecting the Knicks to kind of be up there 1-2, and now you're looking at a Celtics team with no Jason Tatum that just traded away Porzingis and Drew Holiday that's kind of above you in the standings, right? And there was a stretch there where the Knicks were a couple games away from falling into play-in territory. That kind of just shows you, kind of how the season has fluctuated for them. I think the Knicks still end up in the top, maybe call it 2, but they have this tough stretch coming up. I don't think anyone, maybe Boston, because for some reason Jason Tatum is dunking, and we just saw him rupture his Achilles in the playoffs in the second round. So I don't know what type of science he has that we don't have available to ourselves as normal human beings. But he's about to be back on the floor at some point soon. And if Jason Tatum comes back and the Knicks still haven't gotten their act together, you're looking at 2 teams that could potentially beat the Knicks in the first round. And then you can't even really discount Orlando. I feel like a healthy Orlando team has been one team that's given the Knicks issues. Other than that, I think really those are really the 3 teams that you're looking at as a Knicks fan. Like, okay, well, we've proven we can really beat everybody else in the East. But I think the biggest thing is you beat the Detroit Pistons in the first round of last year's playoffs. It was a tough series, but you wanted to be coming into this season feeling like you were head and shoulders better than everybody else, especially when you consider, no Tyrese Halliburton. The Pacers are out of the picture. No Jason Tatum. This is supposed to be a 2-horse race for the Knicks to have allowed other teams to creep into the picture. And for them to, at this point in the season, still look like they've got kinks to figure out on both ends of the floor, not good, right? So I definitely have the Pistons number 1 in the conference, head and shoulders above everybody else. The Celtics and Knicks right now are in the same cluster, which is a problem because if Tatum comes back, that's an issue for the Knicks. And then right now, the Knicks are one of these teams that could skew either way. Do they make a big trade? Do they just improve, on the outside of the rotation? Do they not do anything? And now they just suddenly remember how to move the ball and play defense. And now they're looking like a team that can make a deep playoff run. We'll see. But not a good sign for you to have beaten the Pistons in the first round and for them to look. It'd be one thing if they were, early in the season, the Pistons were like 30-10 and the Knicks were close by, not that far away. The Pistons look like a completely different echelon of team right now. I think that's a problem.
Raptors fans loving hearing that.
Yes, for sure.
Oh, that I didn't mention the Raptors? I'm sorry, but
No, they love that you're saying that. The
okay.
fact about the Knicks,
Okay.
like it's a concern. That part of like, I know
Yeah.
Raptors fans are now like, oh, keep talking. Sorry, Cabbie.
No problem. Kristian, good morning. Cabbie here. In your latest article, the Knicks are finally targeting Mitchell Robinson more often. You explain how effective Mitchell Robinson can be as a lob threat, pick and rolls, and getting to the rim. Is there a sense of frustration around the team because of Mitchell's nightly availability, roughly 20 to 25 minutes? Or has the team come to terms with his ongoing minutes restrictions?
It's tough, right? And at a different point of Mitch's career, he would be the frustrated one. because he wants to be out there to help his team, right? I don't think anyone that's been injured or is dealing with injury issues is comfortable just sitting on the bench. You know, there's this notion that, hey, guys are cool, just collecting checks and then sitting there not helping their team. A lot of these guys have spent, you know, a lot of time dedicating themselves to their craft. They want to be out there. When they're not out there, they're very upset. They're frustrated. But now Mitch is in a new spot where he's had back-to-back ankle surgeries in the same season, and he knows that he's got to be cautious. Otherwise, you know, and this is a contract year for him, right? Where he's heading into the summer where he could be potentially paid, or he could be signing something else closer to a mid-level, right? And if he gets hurt, there's an argument to be made that big payday isn't coming, right? So he's got to be safe. The Knicks know in this wide open Eastern Conference for a year, right, quote unquote, if you want to call it wide open, given they're in third place, you need Mitch. You need some sort of defensive anchor out there. And they also know that, you know, guys that are doing all the dirty work and on playing hard on defense and crashing the glass, you've got to reward those guys by finding them on rolls to the rim, on alley-oops. So they just hadn't been targeting him a lot, right? And you could say the same for OG Anunoby. You could say the same for other guys like Mikal Bridges. Sometimes this team, you know, just has a tendency to fall in a stagnant offense or iso ball. Mitch tended to go overlooked, especially when you consider this guy is 7 foot, tallest guy on the team. Their only real vertical lob threat, and you're not taking advantage of the easy lob. Mike Brown comes in on day one and says we should be throwing 2, 3, 4 alley-oops to Mitch a day, and it just hasn't been happening. But recent stretches, we're seeing this team seek him more consistently on rolls to the rim, alley-oops, have him, you know, even got him trying to make plays with the ball. So I'm like, hold on, I didn't know Mitch could put it on the floor, get to the rim, and dunk on people. Hold on now. I thought we are just like throwing them lobs. He's got a little bag. So, you know, let the big fella play again. You know, I know you see all the summer videos where guys are going crazy. They're you know, so you got centers playing like shooting guards. Let Mitch have his 3 seconds, 4 seconds of fame a little bit. You know, you got to get the big fella involved. But I think that's healthy, right? You got to have I'm of the belief that if everyone's touching the ball, if the ball's moving around, then everybody's going to be more inclined to make all the hustle plays, play hard on defense. So you got to move that ball around.
Absolutely. 3-point shooting is the Achilles heel for the Toronto Raptors. What, if any, is the Achilles heel for the New York Knicks?
Oh, man. That's a tough question. Achilles heel for this team. Well, kind of in a similar vein, this is a team that lives and dies by the three. You've seen them last year to this year. The uptick at 3-point shots has been noticeable. That's pretty much their whole identity. They want to get to the paint. They want to force the defense to collapse. When that happens, they want to spray the ball out. Now, the question is that's what they want to do. Do they actually do it? So the Achilles heel, I would say, is does this team actually stick to the game plan that the coaching staff has set forth? Right? When we see this team go in there and move the ball, play with pace, space the floor out, you're talking about an offense that can hang 130, 140 points in its sleep. But when they're out there and the ball is stagnant and we're seeing iso ball, right? And you know, for example, Jalen Brunson is coming up the floor and not passing the ball and just shooting the ball on the first, you know, 4 seconds, 3 seconds. Mike Brown actually has, you know, he breaks these things up to where he's looking at when in the shot clock you're shooting the ball, but also how many passes are coming into possession, right? And for a while, especially during that late stretch, the Knicks were not only not passing the ball, but they're also shooting the ball late. So it's really just a matter of, is this team really going to stick to the principles? You know, is this team going to revert back to some of the bad habits we've seen them play with? And then on top of that, we've seen this happen more and more. And I wrote this to the New York Daily News. You know, Tom Thibodeau, when he got fired, he was kind of in the same spot where Mike Brown is right now, where he was trying to figure out what levers to pull in order to, you know, get Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson to play productively on the floor together without getting torched on defense. Now you're seeing Mike Brown doing what Tibbs is doing, where you're staggering their minutes, where you've got Karl Anthony Towns watching from the bench 2 games in a row. Now, if you're watching from the bench against the Philadelphia 76ers, against the Brooklyn Nets, against the Sacramento Kings in games that your team needs you out there and you're making $54 million, it's going to be a question every single time, right? We asked Kat about it last night. He's like, hey, you know, whatever helps the team win. I'm not frustrated by these things. He has to be at least a little bit frustrated. This is a guy that got traded here to be playing in these high leverage minutes. And now you're kind of back where you were last season, where you don't necessarily know how to compensate for the defense when both of those guys are on the floor. So that's another Achilles heel. That'll probably be the do or die Achilles heel for this team. Can you find a way to survive defensively with Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson on the floor at the same time? If you can't, February 5th NBA trade deadline is looking pretty good. You got a couple guys that are out there that you can. I'm of the belief that this team can find a way to make it work. Right? They found a way to make it work during the beginning of the season, and then that fell off. But at the same time, you know, guys have to be all the way bought in, and if they're not, on top of that, teams are going to start picking. Right? There's more film. Teams are going to start looking. You see what their weaknesses are. You're seeing them do it in these last few games. What are the Knicks going to do? So are they going to stick to the game plan? Are they going to have game plan discipline? And then can they find a way to compensate for their 2 best players not being typical good defenders. Though that's probably the two things that are going to decide this season.
Oh, okay, so I want to follow you there. Last question for me about Karl Anthony Towns. Why
Sure.
do you think he's become the scapegoat for the Knicks' lackluster results? There was that stretch where the Knicks lost 9 of 11. Is it his salary? Is it his performance, or perhaps overall zestiness?
Oh man, that's a tough way to frame everything. I would say, number one, you trade for a guy who's been a perennial all-star. Last year under Tom Thibodeau, you see him average 24 and 12. This year, the shot attempts are down, efficiency is down. We're talking about career lows and low since his rookie year in points, rebounds, minutes, field goal percentage, field goals attempted, 3-point percentage. The threes, I think, are a little bit up. But this is a guy who's called himself the best scoring, the best shooting big man in the world, right, in NBA history. And the percentages, regardless of what you want to say about Mike Brown's offense, there's two things Cat hasn't been doing. That's making open threes, and that's making layups at the rim. So some of it is he's got to put the onus on himself to be the player that we know he's capable of being, because sometimes a 40-point game every 3 games will help people forget that you're getting in foul trouble every game, right? That you're top 2 in fouls for 2 years in a row, that a lot of these fouls are tic-tac, that the defense isn't always there, right? So those are a couple things. It's tough, right? And then, when you look at teams like the Pistons and you look at teams like the Orlando Magic, you look at these teams that are really going to try to stick it to you in that physicality area, that just hasn't been a tough spot for this team. And you see that with Mitchell Robinson on the floor. The Knicks are night and day, have been a better team defending Joel Embiid, defending Domantas Sabonis, all these guys, because Mitch kind of brings that level of toughness and physicality and defense that you don't necessarily get from Cat. And then on top of that, there's the fouls that I mentioned, right? Cat has not done himself any favors by being the kind of guy who's just fouling and fouling and fouling. There's a stretch where he had 4 or more fouls for about 8 out of 9 games, fouled out the other day. Wow. And now you're seeing him last couple games. He's played 20, 16, 27 minutes in his last 3 games. This guy was accustomed to playing 35 minutes altogether. Right. So some of it I'm going to fall on coaching, right? Because Cat has had the biggest, we'll call it a learning curve. That's what Mike Brown is going to call it, a learning curve. He's had the biggest learning curve because he's got to, and we'll give him that grace, right? He's got to learn all 5 positions because this offense is positionless. We'll give him that grace. And when you talk to NBA players around the league, they're like, yo, basketball is basketball, man. You're supposed to be able to go there. You should know motion offense, flex offense. You should know how to. And at the end of the day, Cat's got to make his open shots, got to make his open threes, and he's got to make his post hooks, right? As a big man, that's how you're going to feast. I think Knicks fans are a little tired of seeing 19 rebound, 17 points, right? So got to get some things together. That said, is he the scapegoat for a lot of the things that are going on? Is the toughness factor there a thing? I think both of those things are in play as well. But at the same time, this is New York City, man. You get traded here. Same thing for Mikal Bridges. You trade 5 draft picks for Mikal Bridges, and Mikal Bridges shoots 3 of 16 from the field. It's tough, right? It's tough to justify these things, especially when you have a 1-year window before who knows what happens when Halliburton gets back. This year for the Celtics, even if Tatum doesn't come back and is fully healthy, he'll be back next year ready to – everybody wants to end the next season. So this is the year where you're supposed to be looking like your world beaters, and now you're deciding if you're going to trade your second most valuable player right now. Tough place to be as a franchise. I won't lie. Tough place.
Interesting place for a franchise, especially from if you're looking at an outsider watching you guys and covering the Knicks. But when it comes to covering the Knicks, this is the last question I have. Again, thank you for joining us today and spitting straight fire about the Knicks organization.
Oh, yeah. You brought the heat today, Christian.
Yeah, we big fans.
This is a 10 a.m. special. This is a 10 a.m. special. It's hard to get me up early, so we're good to go.
I've been covering the Raptors for well over a decade. So I was here when OG Anunoby was drafted to the team. And I remember in the moment when he had his first press conference, I was like, this is a unique individual. And while his tenure with the Raptors, it was sometimes tough to get a quote. I was fascinated covering him because I think he's hilarious. For you, as a fellow basketball journalist, what's it been like covering OG Anunoby?
Straight comedy. But you have to get to know him a little bit, right? Because he's a little I don't think he would agree with me calling him reserved, but he can be reserved at times, right? Especially if he's just kind of like in his own zone. But regardless of what you think and say about the personality, the impact on the floor speaks for itself. This is a guy who's going to defend every team's best player. This is a guy who can score, who can get you 20, 25, 30, depending on who he's playing against. And he's honestly, when you think about the trade, giving up RJ Barrett and Immanuel Quickley and a pick to get him, and then that's what happened. You think about the extension on top of that, 5 years, $212.5 million. Like, oh my God, look how much we gave up to get this guy. No, there's a reason that you gave that much up to him, and it's not just because his agent is related to Leon Rose. It's also not just because he was about to become a free agent and you had no choice but to pay him. This is a guy who's you could make an argument $212 million is an overpay, but you can't make an argument that he's not worth that much in terms of the value and the impact he has on winning. This is a guy who, as soon as you traded for him, you couldn't find your way out of the win column, right? You went on, I think, a 9-game winning streak as soon as you get him, and then you look like a completely different team as soon as you get him. And then once he's injured, which is, that's been the thing, you kind of try to figure out how you put the defense together. But make no mistake, OG is a big impact player on this team, and he's low key funny. You might miss a lot of the jokes that he makes, but definitely a clown in a good way.
I'm fascinated by him. I'm glad that you also see his humor. I think he is entertaining. But thank you for the entertainment today. I hope we have an entertaining game on the court tonight. And I guess good luck covering. We'll probably talk to you again soon, maybe after the trade deadline, depending what happens with your organization that you're covering. But again, thank you for your time today. Absolutely fantastic.
Thank you so much. Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Kristian.
Thanks, Kristian.
That's the thing about OG is, like, when you get to know him like a little bit as a reporter or like fans or whatever, he is hilarious. But I will never forget the first press conference being like, this man is from another planet. But then you realize he's just funny. So something that happened involving New York, we talked about this the other day, was the Empire State Building lighting up the colors of the Patriots, which still makes no sense to me. There's Patriots news today, which has the internet and non-internet crazy people divided. Bill Belichick not going to be voted in as a first-time Hall of Famer for his multiple wins as a head coach and whatever else he had on his resume. Many shocked, saying that those people, I think it was 10 that voted against him, should get their credentials taken away, including LeBron James, who says it's quite frankly disrespectful that he did not get voted in.
Big agree.
And then on the first ballot, JJ Watt saying, I can't believe I'm reading this right. This has to be some kind of whatever, blah, blah, blah. Those people are surprised by this. I can't read it. The monitor is too far, and that text is too small. It's not my age. There's too much going on there. But Dan, are you shocked that he's not going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer?
I am definitely shocked about this. I know that we've got a lot of opinions about Bill Belichick and certainly how he is carrying on right now with the Tar Heels and in NCAA, but his boat's named 8 rings for a reason, because he's got 8 rings and he is the greatest coach that the game has ever seen. Now, I know that there are some questions about what happened through some of those Super Bowl winning seasons with the New England Patriots. But at the end of the day, stop being so jealous that Bill had your number for all these years and realize that this is right there with the best coaches of all time. I can't believe that this is a story. And I feel like whoever didn't vote for him was just searching for reasons to try and put Bill down. And I know he gave a lot of people a lot of reasons. He gave them some ammo. But the resume is the resume. He should be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
The dude is an institutional cheater. Okay, we can get into this at a later time, but the NFL burned the tapes. They had the evidence. They burned the tapes. Bro's a cheater. You're recording other teams' practices. That's on your record, my dude. And it's the reason that Jerry Jones, who is the most powerful owner in the biggest sport in North America, has prevented Robert Kraft from also being inducted into the Hall of Fame because of the team that he owns. We'll get into it another time, but that's my quick take on why Bill Belichick is not a first ballot Hall of Fame. He will get into the Hall of Fame, just not on the first ballot. It's just like you gotta, I don't know. It's like a little bit of football, just saying, hey, you've done a lot of winning. But just hold on a second here before we enshrine you into football immortality. You'll get there, but you just got to pump your brakes a little bit and go have a wonderful night with your lovely girlfriend Jordan Hutson, and eat at Outback Steakhouse in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Onion ring. Bloomin' ring, let's go.
The onion, the
bloomin' ring.
Bloomin' onion, the bloomin' onion. Yeah, the bloomin' onion. Oh,
I mixed it up.
Yeah.
There's no one close enough to where I live. I love those. It's funny because I did not know the storyline surrounding him and his girlfriend. I went down the rabbit hole of that yesterday. People trying to say why he didn't get the first ballot Hall of Fame. And they're like, oh, it can't be because of this. I'm like, I totally actually agree with Cabbie on this, that Deflategate, Spygate. But then that makes me think of Tom Brady, who one of the best quarterbacks of all time. He's part of that dynasty and that storyline. If he will, I think he'll be voted in a first ballot Hall of Famer, but is that not the same storyline that surrounds him? Was he not involved in this? Do you think there'll even be questions or concerns, or they're just going to take it out on Belichick? Like I saw this take
Brady's
online.
Getting first ballot.
Yeah, because I think there'll be riots and people are going to light things on fire, but he was part of Deflategate. He was around like Spygate.
He definitely benefited from Spygate, absolutely. But he benefited from it.
He benefited.
Yeah.
Still, he got the job done on the field. He benefited from, maybe the tuck rule going his way in 2001, or 2002, whenever it was against the Raiders. How many times are we going to go through these things on the field? Like, did anybody stop him? Like, why didn't the Atlanta Falcons stop him from coming back from 28-3? Maybe play a little bit defense. I don't know. Maybe Matt Ryan could throw another touchdown in the second half. I don't know. Maybe you still won the games on the field. This is. Yes. How far are we getting away with? Okay, so you had a little bit of extra info, man. I mean, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. There's just that's
I'm not gonna tell my husband that. Because anyways, guys, I'm just totally taking everything off the rails, but it's an interesting conversation. We will continue to have this conversation all week, and then surrounding the Patriots. Also, we have to talk about the Celtics. There's a lot going on in the sports world. But right now in the chat, people are trying to guess what record is behind me. And yes, it is Aerosmith. So I'm going to take this opportunity for us to go a little off the roster to a pop culture segment, because we are going to be talking about what's happening in the world. And when it comes to music, the biggest night in Canadian music is the Juno Awards. So for those listening, this is a big moment. For those watching, you may not know, but let's take a look at the top nominated artists for the Juno Awards. And I don't think there's any surprise here. Some people might be like, who's Cameron Whitcomb? But still, if you've listened to the radio, if you've been to a sporting event, his music's playing everywhere. You also have Tate McRae, whose music is everywhere on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine. You have The Weeknd also leading in nominations, I think with 6. And then Justin Bieber with 6 nominations. So you look at this, what a class win, because if you don't know who Cameron Whitcomb is, that's okay. But Bieber, Tate McRae, and The Weeknd, your leading Juno nominees. So I'm curious for you guys, if you had to say hey, or I think fan choice of the year has Shawn Mendes and all that. Do you think Tate McRae, Justin Bieber, or The Weeknd would take the fan choice award? They all have such
Tate McRae.
Massive,
Tate McRae's kind
massive
of
fan base.
Because she's just entering the scene comparatively to The Weeknd and Justin Bieber, but I mean her star is shining right now. She has been an unbelievable rise. Had some great tracks this year. I'm on the Tate McRae train.
It feels like this could be her moment, but The Weeknd has just been delivering iconic music for 15 years, since House of Balloons. And last summer he did a stadium tour at Skydome. He had two or three nights at Skydome, and
multiple weekends.
Or multiple weekends, and very few artists. There's a handful of artists that can sell out stadiums, not arenas, but stadiums. So I feel like Tate McRae is absolutely having a moment, but I wouldn't be surprised if the fans rocked with The Weeknd for this one. Although Biebs did have Swag and Swag 2 had a moment too, but I'm going to rock with The Weeknd on this one.
It'll be interesting to see what the fan bases do, but you mentioned that weekend show. I saw one of them at Rogers Center, Skydome. I'm calling it Skydome. I can call it the Skydome. It was just the performance and the production that was put in. I appreciate it so much. But when I saw all the nominations, I'm like, hell yeah, they're Canadian, they're Canadian, they're Canadian. I just want to remind people that these are our Canadian artists. And Chuck D has a beloved fan base. A lot of people talk about the impact that he's had in the music world. He put out this tweet today to celebrate a Canadian rapper, Maestro Fresh West, who will be getting his own postage stamp. He's the first rapper MC to get a postage stamp in their country. Like, I know it's a little thing, but he's getting recognized for the impact that he's had on the world. But like Chuck D shouting you out, like Cabbie, I'm sure you've had that in your life. That's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, it's got to be incredible. I mean, Chuck D is iconic in hip hop, and I'm sure one of Maestro's heroes, as he was heroes just in life, just as a man. So that's got to feel like incredibly rewarding, as is getting the recognition from the federal government. Like, hey, your cultural impact in our country in the arts and culture is so significant that we're going to honor you with a stamp. So that's pretty cool. I'm sure when he saw that, when he got that alert on his phone, he's like, wow, that's amazing.
It's also like a fire stamp, like just seeing it. It's like, man, this might be one of those that you want to collect. And in 10, 15, 20 years, who knows? Maybe it goes up in price. It might be one of those collectible stamps for the future. Cause it was absolutely it's a nice looking stamp.
I'm going to mail you both a letter with that stamp. I don't know if that's something they should not do with a collectible moment, but I love it. Like, let your backbone slide. Like, just such a legend. I'm excited for the Juno Awards, which are in Hamilton, March 29th. Nelly Furtado will be inducted into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame. And you know what, to me, which is the biggest slap in the face to Canadian music fans? Celine Dion is not in the Canadian Music Hall of Fame, and I will never understand that.
What?
Right?
What
Seriously?
do you
That
mean?
is insane.
This is more egregious than Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
That's not possible. What?
It is. And I have this conversation with someone that she works PR to whatever, it's some makeup company. She's like, every day she'll probably message me once in my DMs being like, I still can't believe Celine Dion's not in the Canadian Music Hall of Fame. So we will correct this. We will start our own freaking whatever that's called, where you get people to sign petition. I am too. It makes no sense for the impact that she's had. Like, we could name so many songs and just so many people.
Is she in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? She should be at least in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Like,
let me look
the song from Titanic alone gets her entry into all of the Hall of Fames, and her performance.
She's not
her performance opening the Paris Games, which was like her comeback because she's had health concerns and her vocal cords. I think I can't remember the condition that she had, but she wasn't able to perform for many years in her Vegas residency. But Celine Dion is like on the Mount Rushmore of like Canadian entertainment icons. That is shocking. It's the most shocking thing I've heard, I think, in 2026. And I've heard some really shocking and seen some really shocking things. Actually, maybe in the last 10 years. That Celine Dion is not in the Canadian Music Hall of Fame. Like, what? That's insane.
Her impact, and also like the Francophone community, like having that big breakthrough of
I Will Survive. I Will Survive. What's the song from
The Power of Love, All by Myself.
My Heart Will Go On. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, she has and like, I am not a Celine Dion stan, but the power that she has with her voice, and I know like she's had health issues in the past, but like her Vegas residency, she has impacted people around. It is insulting that she has not been inducted into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame, but hopefully that'll change one day. And then also the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But somebody that's in like multiple Hall of Fames, this just came out moments ago. I just want to read this to you guys because we know there's a lot of artists, like they're trying to support, whether it be musicians, support actors or the theater community and so on and so on. Paul McCartney, because I know we have a lot of Beatles fans that listen to the show. It was just announced that he is going to be releasing for one night only worldwide the documentary Man on the Run, which it's just this new intimate documentary that follows his life after he left the Beatles, what life was like for one night only. It's going to be in theaters February 19th. And there's 50 theaters in Canada taking part in this. And after every screening of the documentary, they'll be streamed also a Q&A with McCartney and the director. I think this is cool. This is the nerdy stuff that I'm fascinated with. Hearing from the people themselves, like, why did they leave a band? Or what was life like this? Or what was life like after they left a team? Like, I just think this is so cool, especially for a one night only theater kind of thing, guys. I'm sure, Dan, if it was like Pearl Jam, you'd be for everything.
Probably. I would be there for an Eddie Vedder thing. But it's You know you're big time when you can be like one night only and people are going to show up like all over the globe. And obviously Paul McCartney's big time, but like, yeah, one night only, you got to go to the theater. You think they put out a major motion picture one night only, people are going? Like probably not, but like Paul McCartney, fire it up.
Yeah. Absolutely.
People I understand his place in the culture. Paul McCartney is not really my speed, so this one I'll have to get one of your guys' reviews on the film. But it's cool. I mean, he's an icon too, and his contributions to rock music have been celebrated. So it's cool. It's cool. Not really my speed.
For people that like it and it is their speed, that's a cool moment. They can go to the theater and see this exclusively. So whoever may be doing it, if it's another artist that also puts out a one moment in time thing, like I know Celine Dion also had a one night only thing that involved her health struggles a couple of years ago before she sang at the Olympic ceremonies, which was a powerful moment. But what I'm hoping for is a big moment from you both tonight when it comes to your Proline pick of the day. Let's go, guys. When watching your favorite sports, make things interesting with Proline. Must be 18 plus to bet in store and 19 plus to bet online with Proline Plus. Must be in the province of Ontario at the time of play. Please play responsibly. Dan, where are we at today?
Well, we are trying to get a streak going. We had the Austin Matthews goal last night. Cab was right with an Alex Tuck goal as well. So let's keep it rolling. We're looking at the Raptors against the New York Knicks tonight, and I'm looking at Brandon Ingram. The line is set at 20.5 points. We are going over the total. He's averaged 22.5 this year against the Knicks in the 2 games the Raps have played against New York. If Toronto is finally going to get one over their Eastern Conference rival, they're going to need a big night from BI. So I'm going over 20.5 from BI3.
Raptors night. Gotta love it. These picks are for entertainment purposes only. Cleveland's Evan Mobley is out with a calf strain for 1 to 3 weeks. So to fill the void left by the reigning defensive player of the year is Jarrett Allen. In his last 2 seasons against the Lakers, Allen is averaging 20 points and 14 rebounds. Cleveland is playing with a lot of confidence right now, winning 6 of its last 7. So Jarrett Allen to register a double-double against the LA Lakers tonight is my Proline pick of the day.
Cannot wait to see how this ends up. I also am excited for tomorrow's show. Thank you for everyone joining us today, keeping us going in the chat on YouTube underneath the Nation Network. Make sure to subscribe, follow us on X, Instagram, TikTok, wherever it may be. We're excited to see you tomorrow. I will not be here. I'm just doing a little sub out. Got to take care of some life things, but the guys, they got you covered. Make sure to join them tomorrow for another entertaining episode of Off the Roster.
Hope you enjoyed this video. If you want more Off the Roster content, make sure to like and hype this video and subscribe to the Nation Network YouTube channel.